a book edited by Dr. A.V. Murali, former NASA scientist. This book is available in different places. It's written by Salil Gewali. In Amazon, this book is available. A fantastic book. Every student, every parent should read this book. Inevitably. It's a small book. It's not big book. I am repeatedly using these messages. See, very simple. Very interesting. It's available in Amazon. In the title page itself, you can see Dr. A.V. Murali. He is from Andhra, but former NASA scientist. He edited this one. Written by Salil Gewali, Shillong, Meghalaya. In the title page itself, you can see a quotation from Albert Einstein. We owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. So the first quotation itself is from a genius. According to the great scientist, in neurology, it is said that when Albert Einstein utilized 1.1% of his brain capacity, whereas we people used less than 1%. Albert Einstein utilized more than 6.6% of the utilizable capacity. We are using far less than 6% of the utilizable capacity. So Albert Einstein said we owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. The next part, what is India? Know the answer from the world-renowned intellectual giants about India. And Dick Terrell, he has written below that. Here you can see he has written 24 centuries before Sir Isaac Newton. 24 centuries before Sir Isaac Newton, the ancient Indian scriptures asserted that gravitation held the universe together. And you know the quotation for that, Agrishti Shaktischa Mahitaya Yat Ghastam Guru Swabhimugam Swashaktya Akrishyate Tatpatadi Dibadi Samay Samandat Kwapatatyayam Ghe. Ghe means the celestial bodies. Samay Samandat, they are attracting each other so that they will not fall anywhere. They are attracting each other. So the Indians developed the use of zero, Rupe Shunyam, Dvishunyam, and used the zero and negative numbers perhaps 1,000 years before these concepts were accepted in Europe, perhaps 1,000 years. So Dick Terrell has said this one. Now we will be going to the quotations. This is primarily for the school and college students. They should understand about our motherland. They should understand about their motherland. Very many things are nowadays coming out, emerging out, based on which we can be proud of. We can proudly say to the world that we are the proud Indians. We are the inheritors of a great heritage which existed in India. So the past of India, the vigor that Indians have got now, the present of India. It is said that the future of the world is in Indian hands. Whatsoever may be, every student, every Indian should learn and teach others about the past, present and future of India. Because India is our motherland. It is our Jnana Bhumi, Karma Bhumi, Punya Bhumi, Yajna Bhumi, Madra Bhumi, Pitra Bhumi, and everything. There may be cancers inside our motherland. There may be opponents outside India. But one thing is that cancer can be cured. Any disease can be to a great extent cured. Even in India, Corona can be cured to the extent of 66%. 2/3 of the patients can recover, and it will shortly become, within 2 or 4 or 5 months, it will become about 80-85%, just like any other disease. So the Indian problems, whether it is coming from the so-called communist or the so-called conversion religion workers or from the jihadis, the terrorists, India will come out from all these negatives. But the thing is that those things can be controlled by the military, police or the law-abiding authorities. Whereas creating a sense of pride in the mind of the people, the mind of the next generation and present generation, creating the sense of pride, that is very important. That can be achieved by creating Ichha Shakti in the mind and Kriya Shakti, Ichha Shakti in the mind, Jnana Shakti in the brain and Kriya Shakti in the body. So our ultimate aim, Indian Institute of Scientific Heritage is doing all this mission oriented work very particularly to inculcate a culture to understand our motherland and creating the patriotic spirit and nationalistic vision in the mind. So the very many messages we are giving of this, one of the very important set of messages that we could collect from the book what is India, now available as I said from Amazon also. Now second quotation I will say, Robert Arthur Oppenhauer, he is a great German philosopher. What he said about India, the influence of Indian literature, influence of our Vedas, Itihasas, Puranas, Darshanas on our time will not be lesser than what was the 16th century Greeks' influence on Renaissance. The Europe underwent a Renaissance. For the Renaissance in the Europe, the Greek literature was terribly influencing, like that in the modern period. Still ancient Indian literature will have a powerful bearing upon the world, not only Europe but also throughout the world. And one day he is telling, Arthur Schopenhauer telling, one day India's wisdom will flow again on Europe. Now it is flowing, now literally it is flowing. Europe is realizing through Mata Amritanandamayi, through Satya Sai Baba, through Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and very, very positively Europe is realizing the messages from Hare Krishna movement. Hare Krishna movement, it is really flourishing like anything in the Europe and other developed countries. One day India's wisdom will flow again on Europe and will totally transform our knowledge and thought. This is the person, German, telling this. You know German from European vision, he was explaining this. Now we will be going to a message of Albert Einstein. You know who is Albert Einstein? Who was Albert Einstein? Undoubtedly the most famous scientist and philosopher in the history of mankind. Albert Einstein, undoubtedly the most famous scientist and philosopher in the history of mankind. He was born in Germany. He developed the theory of relativity, which is one of the two pillars of modern physics, and is well known for his energy mass equation. You know, E is equal to mc square, even which was used for building the nuclear bomb, and well known for his energy mass equation. He received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921 for the discovery of the law of the photoelectric effect, and will be revered as a founder of modern physics for a long time. Such a wonderful, such a great person, perhaps the greatest scientific philosopher, scholar in the world is doing, including NASA is doing variety of experiments to build one Einstein. Creating an Einstein is a project. NASA and other very famous universities have undertaken the project. What Albert Einstein said about India, many times he has repeated many things. I am giving you only one aspect of that. We owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. This is re-quoted by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam while unleashing the power within India. He quoted it from Albert Einstein. Now the next quotation is from T.S. Eliot, a great poet. T.S. Eliot, what he said about India, an American-born British playwright and a literary critic, publisher, essayist, philosopher, and one of the most celebrated poets of the 20th century. His best works include the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and wherein he won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1948. 1948 he could get the Nobel Prize in appreciation of his exceptional contribution to modern poetry. You know, T.S. Eliot has said, every breath is taking you towards graveyard. I always love that line, because we are moving towards the graveyard after every breath. When we breathe, remember that 4 seconds are over after one breath. We are moving towards graveyard. Every second you are moving towards a graveyard. This is T.S. Eliot's message, who passed away in 1965. What T.S. Eliot said about India, Indian philosophers' subtleties make most of the great European philosophers look like schoolboys. You just see how he said about it. There are wonderful great European philosophers, but when you compare Indian philosophers, these European philosophers look like schoolboys. Is it clear to you? When you are comparing the great philosophers of India, who lived in India thousands and thousands of years ago, millennia back, when compared to the great Indian philosophers, the European philosophers look like schoolboys. This is what T.S. Eliot said. Now, he also said 2 years spent in the study of Sanskrit. 2 years T.S. Eliot spent in the study of Sanskrit under Charles Landman, and a year in the mazes of Patanjali's metaphysics, Patanjali's Yoga Shastra. That also he learned, T.S. Eliot learned Sanskrit and Patanjali's Yoga Shastra under the guidance of James Woods, not under the guidance of Indian scholars, but directly James Woods. Left me in a state of enlightened mystification. T.S. Eliot became an enlightened soul after learning Sanskrit and yoga. After learning Sanskrit and yoga under 2 European professors, not Indian professors. So he said that after learning these 2, he became an enlightened, mystified soul. This is the greatness of India, written by another Nobel laureate for the literary work. Again, T.S. Eliot is telling another line. Long ago, very long ago, I studied the ancient Indian languages. Long ago, I studied the ancient Indian languages. And while I was chiefly interested at that time in philosophy, when T.S. Eliot was interested in philosophy, he learned ancient Indian languages. I read a little poetry too from India. He also read poetries of India, not very much, a little. And I know that my own poetry shows the influence of Indian thought and sensibility. And he got converted to mentally, intellectually, academically, socially, spiritually, psychologically. T.S. Eliot got converted into an Indian poet. Everything what he wrote might have a fantastic influence of Indian knowledge. So he is telling, I know that my own poetry shows the influence of Indian thought and sensibility. This is what T.S. Eliot. I used to love T.S. Eliot, such a fantastic messages. And also William Wordsworth. I was fortunate enough to go to William Wordsworth's house. He wrote all these poems nearly 150 to 200 years ago. The 2-story small building in Jasmine village. And sitting where he gave advice to his sister Dorothy. The river is flowing adjacent to that. And Dorothy used to sit on a stone. And William Wordsworth used to lean on the tree and he used to give the messages of nature to his sister Dorothy. And I went to his cremation ground, burial ground, and we, myself and our very close relative, friend, one doctor, and we cleaned the location, and we called the municipality people to clean the graveyard of such a great, wonderful British poet William Wordsworth. They got shocked how these Indians got such a love for the British poet William Wordsworth and this T.S. Eliot. They are all the embodiment of Indian values and Indian culture, even though they were born in America or brought up in England or America or like that. So now next point I want to say, Francois M. Voltaire, what he said about India for the students, school students and for the college students. The greatest French philosopher, Francois M. Voltaire, greatest French philosopher, historian, enlightened author, critic and essayist, a forerunner of the French Revolution, best known for his he was written more than 2000 books and pamphlets, and despite the strict censorship of the laws of the time, he constantly used his works to criticize religious dogma, intolerance and French institutions of his time. And remember that Francois M. Voltaire, what he said about India, every Indian student should know, every foreign student also should know, because it is from a French writer who wrote about 2000 books. I am convinced that everything has come down to us from the banks of Ganga. And he is telling that he is convinced that everything that the mankind could get, that is from the banks of Ganga, Ganga of Bharatam. The astronomy, the astrology, the metaphysics, etc. It came down to us from the banks of Ganga. It is very important to note that some 2500 years ago, 2025 centuries ago, at the least Pythagoras went from Samos. Pythagoras went from Samos to the Ganga to learn geometry. So we learned Pythagoras theorem, but he came from outside to India for learning geometry. But he would certainly not have undertaken such a strange journey had the reputation of these scholars, Brahmins, science not been long established in Europe. He would not have gone to India for learning such a fantastic Sanskrit based mathematics and geometry if he would not have any influence in Europe. During his period, Pythagoras period, more than 2000 years ago. So Pythagoras came here not for selling his olive oil produced in 14 gannies in his area, but he came here for learning about the Brahminical geometry, which is Vedic geometry particularly. You know, Pythagoras theorem written here in India nearly 500 or 1000 years ago. Dirghachadurasrasya kshanayarajjuhu parshvamani tiryanmani cha yat pratak bhude kuritastat ubayam karoti. The square of the side, the square of the base and the square of the height is equal to the square of the hypotenuse or diagonal of a rectangle. The square of the bottom, I mean one side plus the square of the other side, is equal to the square of the diagonal of a rectangle. Dirghachadurasrasya kshanayarajjuhu parshvamani tiryanmani cha yat pratak bhude kuritastat ubayam karoti. This is what about Pythagoras, Francois M. Voltaire, the great French philosopher, was telling. And next quotation of Francois M. Voltaire: the Veda was the most precious gift. Veda was the most precious gift for which the West had ever been indebted to the East. You see how a person who wrote such a fantastic level against the existing political system of France, and who the person who did so much study about India, and he is telling the Veda was the most precious gift, Veda the most precious gift for which the West had ever been indebted. Why not Indian students learn Vedas? The study classes are available in the YouTube and face pages. Just to learn Vedas. How to read Veda. Don't try to make it by heart. It is very difficult. But Udatam, Anudatam, Swaridam, Rebam, Hrasvam, Prajayam, Anudasika, Kambam, Dirghakambam, Pludam. 10 swaras. Apsume somo apraveda yadantar vishwani bheshajaha agninja vishwashambhuvam apascha vishwabheshajihi apapranida bheshajam varudam danve mama yokcha suryam ndrache idamava prabhada yat kinjaduridam mayi yat vaham avidudroha yadva shepa udanratam apo adyanvajarisham rasayana samagasmahi prayaswana gnagahi. How beautifully you have to chant. It's the poetical gift of the divine rishis to Indians and the world. That is what our Francois and Voltaire was telling. Vedas was the most precious gift for which the West has ever been indebted to the East, that is India. My school students and my college students, I am telling, the day of destruction, day of strike and the day of annihilation, that is over. Now 11th Avatara we have got as the social media, and 12th Kalki Avatara is Corona, and Corona is teaching the world what you were, what you are and what you will be. As Albert Einstein said, and the First World War so many weapons were used, Second World War II so many weapons were used, and remember, if a third world war is coming, what will be the weapons used during that period? I do not know. This is what Albert Einstein said. But if a fourth world war is coming, what will be the weapon used? That I can pretty well say. That will be bows and arrows. So now we are in the third world war of Corona, produced by communism, communist China as communist virus. This is what they produced. And remember that the human being, out of 1.2 million type of animals, only human beings started eating everything, whatever he could see, the worms, the squirrels, the rats, and anything and everything he started eating. Whatever comes in front of his eyes, he started eating. But whatever is not coming in front of his eyes, the coronavirus, that virus is eating human beings nowadays. So this is the third world war, and remember that this third world war is giving us an opportunity, you to learn Vedas, how to read Vedas with the 10 swaras. Next quotation of Voltaire: if India, whom the whole earth needs, if India, whom the whole earth needs, and who alone needs no one. India never needs anybody in the world, but world needs India. India never needs anybody in the world, whereas world needs India. Must by that very fact be the most anciently civilized land. India is the most anciently civilized land. She must therefore have had the most ancient form of religion. So India has the most ancient religion, which is based on spirituality and science. Vidyamcha avidyamcha estad veda bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya mritamasnuti. We said to the world, eternal experiential spiritual knowledge is Vidya, external experimentable scientific knowledge is Avidya. Use the scientific knowledge for overcoming the difficulties and the problems in our life, and enlighten yourself through the experiential spiritual knowledge which the India gave to the world. Not the religion but the spirituality. connected with the mind, the science connected with the body. And we said, Anyadevahur vidyaya, Anyadahura vidyaya, iti shushru madhirana, ye nastad vyajachakshide. Approach so many problems with the science, and they approach so many problems with the spirituality. Use spirituality and science, as Albert Einstein said, the science without spirituality is blind, and spirituality without science is lame. Bhagavan Krishna said, Jnanam Vijnana Sahidam Yat Jnatva Mokshate Ashubhat, in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, beginning itself. The science, the spirituality without science, the spiritual Jnanam Vijnana Sahidam, the spirituality without science is blind and filled with the superstition. So Lord Krishna 51 centuries ago said, learn the spirituality also with the science. That is what Francoism, Voltaire was telling. If India, whom the whole world needs, and who alone needs no one in the world, must by that very fact be the most anciently civilized land, she must therefore have had the most ancient form of religion. India has the most anciently civilized religion. That is what we have to tell the world. The Semitic religion, selling their religion and making their members more, number increasing, grabbing the power, grabbing the wealth, and imposing the superstitious religion on the brain of the people, whereas India never said. Indians never said only our religion is perfect, our God is perfect, our books are perfect, our rishis are perfect. We never said. But we said, wheresoever perfect things are available, let those good things be ours. Ano bhadraha kratavo yantu vishwadaha. Let noble thoughts come towards us from all over the world. This is what Indians said. Now the fourth quotation of Franco is Voltaire. We have shown how much we surpass the Indians in courage and wickedness. The Europeans have shown to the world how much they are crossing the Indians in crookedness, in wickedness, and also negative courage, not the positive courage. The Europeans were courageous and bold to kill and conquer others. And they were implementing their wickedness in the name of religion, in the name of Jesus, in the name of Jehovah, in the name of cross, ruling the world. And other Semitic religion, Islam also exactly same thing. They conquered nearly 69 countries and converted them into Islamic countries. India never did that. As the mother of Alexander, Alexander means Alexander the Great, India has never invaded any other country with their military force, whereas India never allowed the military force invasion towards India to go back. India never allowed the invaders to go back. They could assimilate them. That is what the Chinese premier writer was also telling. India conquered China for the last 2000 years without sending even a single soldier from the Indian land. But they send only messengers and messengers of Buddhism and Sanatana Dharma. That is the great. So we have shown how much we surpass, we means Europeans surpass the Indians in crooked courage and wickedness, and how inferior to them we are in the wisdom. The Europeans, how much they are inferior in the wisdom in the world when compared to Indian wisdom. Our European nations have mutually destroyed themselves. The European nations mutually destroyed themselves in this land where we only go in search of money. In Europe, America, England, they always used to go in search of wealth, in search of money, in search of gold, in search of power, in search of the kingdom, and looting the nature and the poor people world over. That is European culture. It's said by a French, perfectly French writer, Francois M. Voltaire. And you see what India, while the first Greeks traveled to the same land of India only to instruct themselves. The Greeks came to India through Alexander for learning what India was, what India is during that period. The Greeks came to India for learning what India was and what India is. To my great students, this class, whenever possible, I will be taking the class, and the messages will be available in the YouTube, and also it will be available in the face page. Learn as much as possible. Every day I will be giving a part of this book, one of the most wonderful book I read many times, and continuously uploading the messages in Malayalam. Continuously many times I upload, giving many quotations to that also. These messages are for the students, for the school and college students about their motherland. For the school and college students about their motherland, part 1. So today I started it. I am sure that you will be sharing with others. Let our India become the Jagat Guru. Let India become the Jagat Guru, the spiritual and scientific and technological capital of the world. Now we have got a spiritual, come political, come intellectual, come scientific, come technological, come socially, spiritually experienced Prime Minister to learn and teach about India to the world in theoretical way as also practical way. I am sure you will be teaching the world whatever I am telling to you. This I have taken the quotation. All the Sanskrit shlokas I am telling you from my own memory, which I was fortunate enough to learn for the last 50 years or not less than 50 years. With these words, I am sure that this corona lockdown period we can utilize for learning about India and teaching about India, spreading the messages about India. Let the enemies of India who are inside India and who are outside India bow their head by learning about India. I am sure that we are not quoting about India or what Indians said, but the most renowned foreigners, what they said about India. Definitely we will be telling about Indians' message also. So my request to you, learn, teach, preach, practice, spread, act and react for India and Indian knowledge. My pranams to you. Thank you very much.